All right, kids, everybody is biased. Every single person has bias. And me as a husband, father, leftist, progressive, unk-aged Buckeye born and raised in Columbus, who usually responds with, "I'm black," when asked what political party I'm in, I am aware of the fact that my point of view and opinions and perspective is slanted towards the part of my identity that I just listed. I admit it. Because everyone plays identity politics too, but that's for another time. With that said, as long as bias is acknowledged, I don't have a big problem with it. What bothers me, and is much worse than any tilt, tendency, or favoritism, is when people pretend like they're not biased at all.
Our show's never really been that political, you know. We hit both sides equally, and we try to make everybody laugh. And that's really the way our show really works. I mean, really, I just keep my head down and making sure the jokes are funny. I have great writers, clever, smart writers, and we're just trying to make the best show we possibly can and entertain everybody.
How does that work? Is it number of words dedicated to the Dems and the GOP, or is it seconds and minutes devoted to each, like when Kamala Harris appeared on SNL, so the Trump campaign made a request for equal time, which they were legally obligated to get? Or would Jimmy Fallon go on The Tonight Show to do a joke about President Donald Trump trying to hide his ankles and the back of his right hand, which proves that opposites attract because Melania has been exposing that thing for years? Then would he have to say something similar about a Democrat? Bill Clinton is right there, sure, easy, but it would have to be a Democrat's wife in order for it to be equal, and none of the first ladies fit that bill. Pun intended. By the way, it's rumored that Nancy Reagan had a real specific way to keep others in Hollywood from just saying no, if you catch my drift. Would it have been funnier if I was like, her mouth was too full to just say no? I don't know. I'm not a comedian.
I'm glad the Riyadh Comedy Festival is finally getting some mainstream attention because it is so crazy. A group of very well-known comedians doing a comedy festival for the government of Saudi Arabia. And looking at this lineup, I guess I'm disappointed in 2 of them, maybe 3. The rest of them, this is pretty much on brand. Nobody saw the poster and was like, wow, a rare miss for Louis C.K.
That creator, a stand-up comedian in his own right, will go on to mention the dangers involved with doing a comedy festival for the crown of Saudi Arabia. We'll get to that later, but today we're going to talk about the more than 50 comics from around the world gathering at Riyadh Boulevard. However, we'll focus on the bias, both sidesing, and backlash of it all.
Every sane person knows there's an amount of money someone could offer you that is actually too much. Like, it's so much money, it's really scary. Like, if you find $20 on the street, great day. But if you find a paper bag with $20,000 in it under a park bench, don't touch that bag. You didn't see shit. If you take that money, you're gonna die. I don't care what job you do. If somebody offers you 10 times your normal rate to do that job for them, their business is crime.
I mean, yeah. Marc Maron, who wasn't invited to perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, did wonder how we would even promote this thing here in America. From the folks that brought you 9/11, 2 weeks of laughter in the desert. Don't miss it. And whether he knew it or not, that applies most to Pete Davidson, whose dad was a firefighter that died at the World Trade Center on 9/11. And Pete justifies his decision like this: I get the routing number in my bank account and see how much I get paid. I'll go. Now, considering the circumstances, I expected more from him, but I can't say the same for the other 47 comics, with the exception of Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr. Burr, who was in the running to be the Joe Rogan of the left, and Chappelle, who has turned down more money for less.
He said, but name your price in the beginning. If it ever gets more expensive than the price you named, get out of there. Thus, Africa.
In 2005, Dave Chappelle walked away from Chappelle's Show and a $50 million contract with Comedy Central for many reasons, including stress, not liking the direction of the program, and reassessing what it means to be successful, just to name a few. After coming back from a trip to Africa 20 years ago, Chappelle did an interview with the likes of Oprah where he explained himself. There, he outlined how movie executives seem to want to put black men in dresses for some insidious reason. And since then, black men in America have forgotten that Dave has put on a dress and ignore how white male actors also put dresses on all the time. The point is, the Dave Chappelles of the world have the power to sway public opinion. What comes to mind when you think of Dylan from Making the Band? Or Rick James at all? Him. Now, remember when Dave claimed that he wasn't getting paid for the use of his show?
So I'm not going to the agents. I'm coming to my real boss. I'm coming to you. I'm begging you. If you ever liked me, if you ever think there was anything worthwhile about me, I'm begging you. Please don't watch that show. I'm not asking you to boycott any network. Boycott me. Boycott Chappelle's show. Do not watch it unless they pay me.
Dave Chappelle asked fans to boycott Chappelle's show until Viacom CBS paid him for licensing the show to streaming platforms like Netflix, and it worked. But when Chappelle was asked to tone down the trans jokes he told after he got multiple multi-million-dollar contracts, their cries were met with deaf ears. It's the cancel culture versus consequences thing that I've talked about in the past, where I've discussed how Kevin Hart saying that he's been canceled 3 or 4 times proves that being canceled isn't real. Louis C.K. even doing anything at this point proves that cancel culture isn't real. They want the freedom to say whatever they want. In other words, to dish it. But when an audience says, F you and your career, these comics can't take it. Are we somehow biased against comics? Is the audience only free to speak with cheers while furthering a comedian's career? According to the New York Times, Chappelle told the 6,000 folks attending the Riyadh Comedy Festival, right now in America, they say that if you talk about Charlie Kirk, that you'll get canceled. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to find out. He then added, it's easier to talk here than it is in America. Well, Atsuko Okatsuka revealed that she got an offer from the comedy festival back in July and turned them down. So a lot of the you can't say anything anymore comedians are actually doing the festival, yet had to adhere to censorship rules about the types of jokes they can make, including artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including its leadership, public figures, culture or people, the Saudi royal family, legal system or government, and any religion, religious tradition, religious figure, or religious practice. Even with that, you gotta ask if any of this cancellation and censorship from the FCC regarding Charlie Kirk would be happening had Kamala Harris became president, or are we going to both sides that too?
I travel, dude, and I'm telling you, people who lean right and lean left are chill. And we're just sitting in the middle like, when is everybody going to fucking calm the fuck down? When is this going to go back to, you know, like live and let live?
Sure.
So, and there's way more of that. And I have people from construction workers to fucking, you know, hairy-legged chicks with nose rings going, hey, I like what you're saying out there about these billionaires. Because that is the fucking problem.
Bill Burr, who got one of the big breaks early on in his career on Chappelle's show, telling us that the middle is chill. After he flew into the middle of Saudi Arabia, he said, you think everybody's going to be screaming death to America and they're going to have like effing machetes and want to like chop my head off, right? Claiming, because this is what I've been fed about that part of the world. Around that same time, a Florida retiree had been convicted of cybercrimes and blocked from leaving Saudi Arabia until next year over social media posts critical of the kingdom's crown prince. That's the most tame thing a Florida man has ever been put in prison for. According to his son, the man was found guilty of distributing online content that undermines public order. The conviction carries a 3-year sentence, but spares that man an additional prison time after he spent more than a year behind bars following his arrest in 2021.
When you think of talking about politics at all in your act, what do you want to do, right?
If I do it, I trash them both.
Yeah. With what?
Because that is my job. After I've trashed Trump, I then do that because my thing is like, I'm not flying either one of their flags. It's the people that pay them. Mm-hmm. That is the problem. And they're always distracting us with other stuff. So
I'll admit, fine. Both parties are out of touch and in bed with the police. Both parties are subject to lobbyists and corporate interests. And both parties do what billionaires want them to do. However, Billionaires have bought social media sites in order to spread right-wing rhetoric. One billionaire got his by inventing a social media site and loneliness, and recently went on the world's most popular podcast talking about moral masculinity. Could this be to preserve some people's freedom of speech? Could be the hardest data. Could be because this current administration gave them tax cuts. Whatever the case, I'm glad Bill Burr is speaking to the shortcomings of Democrats and Republicans, but he has to know what the puppet master's political leanings are, right? Again, it's not like I was thrilled to vote Democrat in the 2024 election, but still.
Hey man, it's time for dinner. We get a pick tonight. We can have the food that we had last night, which we both agree was bad. We didn't like the food last night. Or we can have this bottle of sulfuric acid. And here's the thing. If we don't pick either, somebody's going to come by later in the night and inject us with the sulfuric acid. So we have to pick. I didn't really like the food at all last night, though. Agreed. Yeah, me either. Here's the thing. I think getting the poison's really bad. What we really need is to have like a full buffet with options for everyone. Yeah, man, that would be great. We can do that. We could really try. That's a lot of work, but we can really try for that. We wouldn't be able to do that if we drank the poison. I'm talking vegan options, halal, the whole shebang. I mean, that's what we really need. Agreed. Not possible given the present circumstances. Honestly, I mean, the food we had last night was basically poison. You know, basically. No, okay.
Can we agree that politics, morals, and values are wrapped up in one another? Comedian Tim Dillon explained that his manager told him Riyadh Comedy Festival organizers became aware of comments he made about slavery in Saudi Arabia and didn't like it. He also discussed his decision to accept a $375,000 fee for performing at the festival. Quote, "They're paying me enough money to look the other way," Dillon said on his own show. "I'm being paid a lot of money to not care about what they do in their country. If you pay me lots of money, I will not comment on what's going on. In fact, I will ignore it." I don't know who Tim Dillon is. I don't know what his politics are, but he bet not be a leftist and very well could be a liberal or centrist or moderate, which are all the same in America, but still.
Hey y'all, got some bad news. It turns out that the boat we're in right now has some holes in it, and we are very quickly taking on water. Oh, damn, dude. Well, let's patch those holes and start bailing out water, yeah? Actually, I kind of like the holes. You know, I like watching the water come through. I think it looks cool. I was thinking, what if we made the holes bigger and threw the poor people on this boat overboard so that the rest of us could stay and watch the water come through the holes for longer? What the fuck? Okay, hold up. It's clear that we've got some extreme ideas here on both sides.
Yes, there was 9/11 and Jamal Khashoggi, but I want you to know about a Saudi stand-up comedian and his wife, a women's right to drive activist. Both were arrested in 2018. She was allegedly tortured by electrocution. She was flogged and a victim of sexual harassment. Then she disappeared. He was incarcerated for a while. Might still be. And that's for Jim Jeffries, who claims that his edgy material coming from a free speech machine such as himself is for the greater good. One reporter was killed by the government. Unfortunate, but not a effing hill that I'm going to die on. How many people need to die on or under that hill? Is it just me, or are the brash, brunt beacons of free speech only that way when it comes to negative, bad stuff? It's never Greta Thunberg and the flotilla are heroes and an inspiration, and I won't be quiet about it. Jeffries got enough cachet to get cash from the Saudis, and I hope he uses that platform for good. Actual good. And both Chappelle and Burr have made enough money that Saudi funds shouldn't have made a difference to them. Although, for those two, I'm sure it was more than that $300,000 number I mentioned earlier. For those keeping score at home, though, I challenged a leftist and a black man all in one video. And I believe that Dave Chappelle will test the Charlie Kirk talking point thing. And Bill Burr will go after billionaires on any stage near you. And going back to Jimmy Fallon's Dairy Queen stream soft-serving his monologues, keep in mind, That clip from Fallon that I showed earlier was taped a day before his fellow late night TV hosts, Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, were on each other's shows talking about how the FCC and the Trump administration has kicked them off the air. What is the liberal equivalent of that? Perhaps it's not a both sides thing. This administration won't treat him and his colleagues equal to Fox News. Maybe he should be biased. We're going to be all right.